Smarterfan. Smarterfan. Yeah. Smarterfan.
Hello, Smarter Fan family. We are back again with another incredible show. We may be in the SEC, we may be in the Pac-12, we may be in the hot into NHL, we may be, well, we can't go back to the NBA Finals because the Nuggets won. Joe, the Nuggets won. I had all
Yes,
my
they
money,
did.
all my chips on the Jimmy B, but he needed help. But I
Mm,
salute the Nuggets for winning their first championship in franchise history. So that means, I believe, every team in the NBA has won a championship, I believe.
well, all four teams in the ABA have been to a championship now,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the Nuggets and the Spurs are the only two ABA teams to win it.
Wow. 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 So from NHL, NBA, MLB, soccer, FIFA, we may even go into gaming. You get it all here at Smarter Fan Podcast because we are true fans looking and always looking forward to talking to true fans of sport and business and everything in between. How you doing, buddy? What's going on?
I'm doing all right.
Well, you're like the in-house historian. You like give us all the history and none of us ever knew existed. What you got for us today? What you got? What
Well,
you got?
last week I touched on how they honored Yogi Berra at the stadium, because of his participation in the Normandy invasion,
Wow.
and and he had a long and illustrious life, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he wrote a couple of books about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
one of his books that I have, which I found very entertaining, is called "When You Come to a Fork in the Road, Take It."
Wow. Yeah, I remember that book. I remember that
Now,
book. Ah, there it is. Yeah.
yeah. So what he said about that was that the driveway up to his house comes to a fork, and no matter which way you go, it leads to his house. That's why he says, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a fascinating guy. Fascinating guy. He's lived a long time. Most people don't even know what Normandy is, that there was a war, or even where
Mm,
Normandy physically is on the map.
right. Yeah.
That's what's
Yeah.
really amazing. Is that you talk to most people, they're like, Normandy. There was a war in Normandy. It's a place. Yeah. Yeah. He's lived that long. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I mean,
And
not old and decrepit. I mean, active.
he stayed
Active.
active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Active guy. Amazing, amazing, amazing history. Yankee legend. I was talking to somebody today. I was talking about, what is it with you and the Yankees and the Cowboys and the Giants? I said, well, it's kind of shaped me as who I am as a person. I mean, I grew up 15 minutes away from where the Giants practiced at Pace University.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
First official NFL football I got from my older brother, who had a friend who worked at Pace where the Giants practiced, and he brought it home one day and gave it to me. I was 11, maybe 9 years old. So I've
Yeah.
always been a Giants fan, and then being a Cowboys just came natural to me. But the history of the Giants and the Cowboys are Vince Lombardi used to coach the offense, and Tom Landry used to coach the defense.
Yes, he did.
So I'm a big person when it comes to sports and history. I don't think you
Yeah, that
can.
was one of my old gym teachers wound up working in the Giants front office. So I thought that was interesting. After he left the high school, that's where he went.
Wow,
And the
wow.
last time I saw him was when Art Monk got inducted into the Westchester County Hall of Fame.
Mm,
And and he had his Super Bowl ring on, and the thing was huge. It was just humongous.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I am absolutely sure about that. So, Joe, you really do need to owe me. You really owe me an apology because you were fretting and worrying and biting your nails about the Yankees and this and that. I said, relax, Joe. Relax. You know how we work it in Yankee Town. When we get closer to
Yeah.
October, it all turns around. That's who we are. That's who
Well,
we are.
let's hope so, But
Oh,
you
gee.
know, I wanted to touch on some of these chapters in his book. They were
Yeah.
named for his yeah, he used the sayings to name the chapters of his book. You know, one of his they called them yogiisms. Yeah, that's, and he
Uh huh.
said
Uh-huh.
public speaking is one of the best things I hate.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
and he just came up with these things like off of the top of his head. Like if you don't know where you're going, you might not get there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
90% of the game is half mental.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says you can observe a lot by watching. I mean,
Yeah.
these,
Yeah.
you know,
It seems
and,
simple until you really start to think about it.
oh yeah,
It seems
yeah.
simple,
They
but
all have
no.
meaning. They all have meaning.
Yep.
There was a method to his madness. Believe me. He said
Absolutely.
a nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. you know,
And he would know. Living from 19, imagine the prices he's seen change from 1930, 40, 50, 60, 7. You know what I'm saying? I mean, literally going from where you could buy a loaf of bread for a nickel. He lived during that time.
yeah.
Just
Well,
imagine, I mean, just imagine what he's seen from 1940 until he passed. It was like a whole new
oh,
world.
well, no, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, back then, players like him had to work in the off season. They had to get part-time jobs.
Yeah, all the way up until probably the 60s when Mickey
Yeah,
Mantle was still working a part time. Most of the guys in the 60s were still working another job. So not
right.
to kind of the 70s where they could kind of stop that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And that
yeah,
depended on where you
definitely.
really were. Are you a first tier player, second tier player, third tier player? So all of that has come into
Yeah.
play. But I know always need to, I'm a little disturbed about something. I think the NFL should do something to honor Tom Landry. I think having that kind of iconic coach and just kind of pushing him off to the side is not right. You know,
Well,
that's kind of been a
did they
claw
did
in
they
my throat for a long time.
did they put him in the Ring of Honor? Have they put him in the Ring of Honor?
I'm not sure about that, but outside of
Yeah.
that, greater than that, there needs to be some sort of award, Tom Landry. There really does. I mean, you just can't have somebody that iconic and brush him to the side, you know.
They're still
But
they're
that's just
still
one of my.
using his
Mhm.
your pet peeves. Yeah, I know. I understand that. As a Cowboy fan, I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, even beyond that, just as a fan of, if you love the sport, I mean, you
Right.
just can't get around Mount Tom Landry if you're a
Well,
really
his
fan of the sport.
they're still
Hmm.
using his system today. His
That's
system is still being used.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah.
That's my point. One of my points, And so, I'm just a big person of history, and the
Yeah.
importance. I saw something too that was really interesting. It was talking about switching to the NBA. There were a lot of retired players talking about how they don't see so many kids. So many kids are not on the playgrounds anymore,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it really made me think, and it was just like, their points were real taken. Really, the three main points were, we were really out there to go get it. One, and really play and compete. And the way the league is structured now, you got these 7-foot guys out by the 3-point line
Oh,
Like
that's ridiculous.
everybody is a Steph Curry, and you're not gonna find a Steph Curry, and it's just kind of silly how these analytic guys have been allowed to change the game and literally ruin the game. And if you
Yes.
ask me, they got a lot of people who are influencing the game who've never played the game at a competitive level. Like it's
Yeah.
stupid to me, and it's late. It goes back to one of my pet peeves: lazy coaching. It's
Yeah.
like, who's doing this? This is ridiculous. You think you can find a Steph Curry, a Clay Thompson, and design your whole offense like that? It didn't even really make any sense when they did it. It was just something unique because they had the personnel to pull it off. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And
But I've been
mhm.
saying you live by the 3 point, you die by the 3 point.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
I'm just watching the game and just going like, I would just I would just be driving to the basket every day. I would
Yeah.
just be killing them every day, every night. I'd have 40. I'd have 40 a night, easy, because
Yeah.
it's the most idiotic way of playing the game. I'm like, are you serious? And
Well,
anyway,
nobody goes in the paint anymore.
which is ridiculous. That's high percentage shot. I mean, it was just ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Nobody posts up anymore. You know?
It's just ridiculous. And what did you see Joker do? Kill him in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
Kill him in
Mm-hmm.
the paint. Kill him in the
And
paint.
then when he was a great facilitator too, because everybody else was stepping up.
That's what you gotta have. That's what you
You
gotta
know?
have. But see,
You
a
know?
lot of these kids don't know history, don't know the dream, don't know the dream. Akeem the dream. They don't know. They just
Mm.
wake up. I just don't get it. I just really don't get it. But
Well,
switching mhm.
go ahead.
No, just going back to baseball. It's gonna be interesting. I think I'm predicting something. I want you to take note that Dusty Baker's gonna have them boys, the Astros, back in the World Series again.
I can
Watch,
see it. I can
watch.
see
He's
it.
gonna have him back there again. He's just one of the most prolific coaches um, ever, and he just knows
Yeah.
how to coach guys and get the best out of guys. And he's just a magician. And I got to see Dusty Baker and Reggie Jackson's there with the Astros as well. You
Mm.
know, sprinkling his Mr. October magic over there. And so
Uh-huh.
it's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing to watch. It's a beautiful thing to watch. But yeah, I mean, the NBA, it's gotten soft. The NFL, they better watch out. I was reading interesting because I always got to talk about money. So
Mm.
Saquon Barkley was talking about, don't miss this, fans, talking about his negotiations with the Giants, wanting to be a
Right.
Giant, not necessarily having to make top tier, setting the market money. But he says, I want to be a Giant the rest of my career. Let's come to a number that works for you and works for me. It just made me sit down and kind of think and look and read a couple articles and say, man, this is very interesting because I think they tagged him again, which has been used by the owners in a very unfair way, which is, I'm going to tag you, I'm going to get use out of you. I'm not going to, this is the most dangerous thing. I'm not going to allow you to go to market so that somebody else wants to, bid on your services. You can't do that. And they're going to have to change that in the collective bargaining agreement. One, because it's unfair. The market
Mm.
should determine your value. And then part two of that is, I think they got to go back to the table and renegotiate some other revenue streams that players can generate from, right? And
Mm.
to me, the biggest revenue stream is figuring out a way that they don't pay as much tax because the owners are not paying. Trust me, the owners are not paying a lot of tax. They're
No,
not.
now about
No,
corporate America in general is not, but that's besides the point.
no, but it isn't. It is a part of the big point, and it's the
Yeah.
old battle between capital and labor. Your point is well taken, and I think it's unfair. And I've always been. I think Bill Bradley had done this, and they kind of nixed it, where he was somehow able to identify himself as a corporation when he played for the Knicks, and so it lowered his tax hit. Right, it lowered his tax hit, and they never allowed anyone to do a contract like that again. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so I think something like that needs to be reinstated, that players are allowed to be corporate entities and get taxed at a lower rate. If you're going to keep that cap, which is an advantage to the owners, I need to have an equal advantage tax wise, that I'm not paid as a W-2 employee. I'm paid as a corporation.
Hmm.
Seems fair to me. Seems fair to me. Yeah, Joe. I mean, the reality is that the players need to renegotiate something tax wise, that they can either identify themselves as corporations so that they can take less of a tax bite, just like the owners. If the owners are going to keep and using the tag as a way of kind of a non compete, and then I get to take your services, pay you this money, but I don't have to pay you the full amount because I don't allow you to test the market. And that's really not the American way. You know, you
Mm.
should be able to get paid for your services the full amount and make a decision whether I'll stay or not, and whether or not the owner will pay more or not. I mean, that's just fair, you know. And I mean, the players need to get more, because the reality is that the ownership will always make more, and that's why I'm such a strong advocate for collegiate athletes and pro athletes, because
Mm.
just the nature of the system, you can't play forever. You
Nope.
know, that's a
Nope.
cap, you know, and at any moment your career can end, you know, and at any time it just may not work out. So you're taking all the risk, you know, um, and the reward is always, and you get every year you got somebody younger, stronger, faster competing for your job,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know, at less money. I mean, really, when you line it up, all the advantage is to ownership. Is, you know, all the risk is on the player, and so the players should be able to make as much money as they possibly can during their career.
Yeah, but like I was saying, it's a business, and it's a cutthroat business, and it's the last couple of CBAs. It seems like the owners have always had the upper hand.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
you
they're
know,
probably gonna have to do something about that, because I don't really know. This may be kind of really a stretch, but I don't know. I don't know, Joe. You know how we're fans of the game,
right?
but we really are fans of the past. When I hear the players, the retired players now, they're fans of the past. I don't
Yeah.
really. When I look at current fans, they don't look like fans. They don't act like fans. They don't talk like fans. They're. I mean, I've seen more passion and pickup games in the park. I don't know if the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get. I don't understand them. You know. I mean, You know, the only thing that kind of makes me feel like when I see fans of the Chiefs, right? You know, that
Yeah.
kind of gives
Yeah.
me a little bit of that feeling. But when I watch basketball, professional basketball, yeah, the stands may be full, but the product on the court is really trash. You know,
Mm.
it's not even as competitive as going to West 4th Street in New York City. I can see more competitive basketball at West 4th Street in New York City than
Well,
watching
that's
an
because
NBA game.
that's because they're not worried about their brand. You know.
Well, they better worry about their brand, and I'm glad you said that, because I really feel, and I may be out on a limb tonight. I seem to be out on a limb a lot tonight. Is
Mm-hmm.
that I think particularly African American players. I think they've. I think this whole thing was an experiment to see how well the Euro style of basketball would go in America,
Mm.
and it ain't working. It's not a great product. It's just
No.
not. You know, it's a different style of basketball. It's not a great product to watch. Um, it's
Well,
not
that's what happens
exciting.
when you try to make the sport an international sport.
Well, I don't think there's. I think basketball was already an international sport because what? Most international players were watching who?
Oh,
Basketball players who were their idols. Basketball players in the United States, right? That's who they
true,
mimic,
true,
right?
yeah,
But ownership, this happens often with business. They're looking at the numbers and all of that, and sometimes many situations forget about the product. You know what I mean? And they
yeah,
forget that what kind of product am I putting out there?
mm,
And so it's a very tricky slope, and there's a lot of laziness into it. Whereas okay, we're hitting these numbers, but are you looking at, like a friend of mine said, Barry, if you ain't eating your own cooking, you really don't know what you got. And I don't
mm.
think a lot of these owners are really eating their own cooking per se. You know, I mean, think about it. You and I both live in New York, and I wasn't even really aware that the Knicks were in the playoffs. Think about that
uh,
for a minute.
I was,
Think about that.
yeah,
I was it was just so non-news for me
right,
that I didn't even know the Knicks were in the playoffs. That's
yeah,
crazy. The Knicks haven't been
yeah,
in the playoffs for a very long time. But again,
nope,
I think that has a lot to say with the product, you know,
yeah,
with the product, So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. What else you got to talk about? I'm
What?
just walking
Well,
around my house with my NASCAR shirt you got me, brother. I just want to, you know what I'm saying? I like people don't telling people, where'd people, hey, I went to the mailbox. My neighbor said, wait, where'd you get that? I said, hey, don't get too close to me. Don't get too close to me. I had to
well,
import this from North Carolina. I had to import it.
that's right. But on a sad note, um,
Mm.
on a sad football note, today we lost another great player in Homer Jones.
Oh,
He uh,
wow.
he was 82. You know, he was battling lung cancer. Finally lost the battle. You
Oh,
know,
man.
he was one of the most prolific wide receivers for the Giants and the Browns. And he basically was the first one to spike the ball after a touchdown.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he invented the spike.
Oh, what hit? Boy, you are really the in-house historian for real.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he played on the Giants from 63 to 70, and then he was traded to the Browns for another Giants household name, Ron Johnson. So,
Wow. Okay. All right. Wow.
and another thing that was historic on his part was that his debut with the Browns was also the first ever Monday night game.
Wow. Where you get these facts and figures from? Man, you are like on fire with this stuff.
And he made the biggest play of the game was he returned a kickoff in the beginning of the second half for a 94-yard TD. You know,
Wow.
so he retired at 29 because he had knee injuries, knee problems, and stuff. So he was forced to retire. Um, but he finished his career with 224 receptions for 4,986 yards. With
Mm.
a 22.26-yard average, which remains the highest in NFL history for a receiver with at least 200 catches.
And
So,
that man was putting in work.
yes, he was, and he only did it for a short period of time, but he made he made the best of it.
Mm.
So I just wanted to put that out there. Rest in peace, Homer Jones. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
all right, folks, that's another segment of Smarter Fan Podcast, and next week we're going to talk about basketball, hockey, you know, and all those other good things that make the sports world worth watching and listening to. So
Like Formula
that's
One.
it. Yeah, yeah. So, you know, so until next week, folks, peace.
Peace.
Smarterfan.